Hey guys, it's the Disco Spider, and recently Cartoon Network has been canceling a lot of their shows. Granted, these shows still have about a season or two left until they do end, so they are still airing, but however, this year Cartoon Network has canceled Uncle Grandpa, Regular Show, Gumball, and Adventure Time, leaving them only with Steven Universe, Teen Titans Go, Clarence, We Bare Bears, and Powerpuff Girls to still continue for a while. And although I do really like Steven Universe, I don't think the rest of Cartoon Network's shows could really save the network. But now Cartoon Network has released another new cartoon which people are being extra hard on because it will have to take on the legacy that Adventure Time and Regular Show started. And now that soon almost half of Cartoon Network's shows will be ending, Cartoon Network will need all the help it can get to advance the network. But is Mighty Magiswords good enough to sustain Cartoon Network and continue the revival of Cartoon Network? Or do they just help write Cartoon Network's demise? The show is about a brother and sister, Bryce and Vamber, going around looking for tasks in exchange for money. The show had potential to be great. This could have been a great action comedy, but Cartoon Network decided to make it a full-on comedy. And although I'm not getting mad at it just because it's not an action show, but it could have worked as such along with some comedy. The show could have explored the world these characters live in, but instead of having adventures, they decided to have small plots that are kind of adventures, but are more focused on the comedy. And I get that comedy shows are what's in right now, but it still would have been cool for them to focus on the adventure aspect of the show. For example, Adventure Time's first season, it was solely a comedy, but they still had a lot of crazy adventures with interesting plots. Even if the plots were basic, like Finn trying to get a special hero book, there's still a lot of things that go on with a lot of comedy. They built the world that surrounded the character. The whole land of Ooh is such a cool place that I would love to explore. But as for the land in Mighty Magiswords, it's very bland and basic because we haven't really explored any of it. The only place we really know about is the main character's house, Slugburger, and the Queen's Palace, and the Dinosaur Terrans. And even with that, they're still pretty generic looking, like a typical fast food place, a palace, and having boring green backgrounds with not much to explore. I feel like the show tried to do something like Adventure Time, except all the plots are really basic without having any adventure aspect to it. Even though the show should have been, all the plots is just for making jokes, and that's it. I mean, there's even an episode where they work at a fast food place, and although they do use Mighty Magiswords in that episode, the majority of the episode just feels like an average cartoon with the same plot, not taking advantage of this really cool atmosphere it has. And as for the comedy, I don't find much of the show to be that funny. Granted, I will give them credit that I may laugh at like 1 or 2 jokes per episode, but that's not enough for me to really consider the show to be that funny, which makes the plots fail because not only are they boring and not interesting, but they don't even make me laugh, which is their main purpose. Even if I didn't find an episode of Adventure Time to be that funny, I could still really love it for its atmosphere and great adventures. Like the City of Thieves, I didn't find this episode to be all that funny. However, the part that drives me to really love this episode and have me return to the episode was the whole city part. They really built the city to be this really cool place, and exploring it with Finn and Jake was still really fun. The reason why the jokes didn't work that much is the pacing. The pacing here is horrid. I sometimes get a little irritated by some cartoons' pacing when a character responds to something a little too fast, but that's only for one instance, and I'm perfectly fine with that. But in this show, a lot of the scenes are just moved way too fast. Like they wanted an episode to have a certain scene, so they gotta make another scene very fast so they can just fit that in. And it does kind of ruin some parts of the show for me, kind of getting me out of the moment, being like, the heck, why did this scene move it way too fast? And as for the characters, they're nothing bad, but nothing good. Bryce is the silly one, and Vamber is the, well, I don't know. Vamber doesn't really have much of a personality. I mean, she can be the straight man at times, but other times she can just be silly too. And she does love adventuring, but so does Bryce, which makes her character kinda boring. And although I don't think these characters are anything bad, they're just forgettable. And along with the comedy, the main part of the show are the characters. It's a very character-driven show, since a lot of the jokes go along with the characters. And a show like, say, Adventure Time, you don't necessarily have to like the characters, since the whole aspect of the show is the adventure. And although, yeah, if you hate Finn and Jake, you're not gonna like the show, but the whole part of the show, like I said, is the journey and the atmosphere of where they visited instead of the actual characters, except for maybe a few episodes. But I will say Vidya and Gatto are really fun characters, and by far the best part of the show. Whenever the series has them a part of the plot, I find myself actually liking the episode a lot. Like the episode about the fake book. I really love them because they actually make the plot have something to it, instead of the episode being about Bryce and Vamber going out to do some quest, but also accompanies this plot of the two characters trying to outdo the main characters is quite fun to see. And these two characters aren't in much of the episodes, so they don't overdo them to the point where I'm annoyed. The thing I do like from the show is the actual Magiswords. The Magiswords are creative and clever, but however, I would have liked the show more if it was more focused on the Magiswords. Say, if it were kind of like Pokemon, where we had some other warriors battle the characters with their Magiswords, or for them to go on more quests to get more rare Magiswords or something. But it's not. I mean, each episode does prominently feature Magiswords, and some have episodes to themselves, like the Venus Flytrap Magisword and the Dolphin Magiswords, but they don't take full advantage of them, but that could have just been a nitpick for me. Overall, I was disappointed in Mighty Magiswords. Although I don't think this show is all that bad like the Powerpuff Girls reboot, it does have potential to progress into a better show. However, from what we got now, I really hope Cartoon Network changes the way they make shows, or at least start experimenting more like they used to, because if they start releasing these bad to mediocre comedies and reboots, I don't think too brightly on their future, and could potentially have the same hate as Nickelodeon back in the 2010s, which is something I don't want to see Cartoon Network turn into. But what did you guys think about Mighty Magiswords? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or if you're like me, where you don't necessarily hate it, but it's not something you'd watch regularly, or at least from time to time, leave down in the comments. I'm interested to see if people actually like the show, or if this show is just garbage. I don't know. So yeah, I'm Disco Spider, and peace out.